Hello, everybody, and welcome back to IntyCenter for our another whip around FODEUSS. This week, we're going to start in similar fashion to what we have in previous weeks, but inspired by the fantastic playlist, including the one that's made my rotation, War Isn't Murder, given to us by MN Jedi, who, by the way, you're getting a random Inty buck for putting that song into my rotation. This week, I'm just going to open up by reading an excerpt from The War Prayer by Mark Twain. Do yourself a favor. It's a really short read. Go read the whole thing. Uh, it might boost your spirits, but it might also deflate them into thinking that, you know, le plus ça change, c'est le plus ça même chose with the fucked up world that we live in. But in anyways, I want to read the actual prayer from this holy man from Mark Twain's The War Prayer. O Lord, our Father, our young patriots, idol of our hearts, go forth to battle be, thou near them. With them in spirit we also go forth from the sweet peace of our beloved fireside to smite the foe. O Lord our God, help us to tear their soldiers to bloody shreds with our shells. Help us to cover their smiling fields with the pale forms of their patriot dead. Help us to drown the thunder of the guns with the shrieks of their wounded, writhing in pain. Help us to lay waste their humble homes with a hurricane of fire. Help us to wring the hearts of their unoffending widows and availing grief. Help us to turn them out roofless with their little children to wander, unfriended, the wastes of their desolated land in rags and hunger and thirst, sports of the sun, flames of summer, and the icy winds of winter, broken in spirit, worn with travail, imploring thee for the refuge of the grave, and denied it for our sakes who adore thee, Lord. Blast their hopes, blight their lives, protract their bitter pilgrimage, make heavy their steps, water their way with their tears, stain the white snow with the blood of the wounded feet. We ask it in the spirit of love, of him who is the source of love, and who is ever faithful refuge and friend of all that are sore beset and seek his aid with humble and contrite hearts. Amen. There you have it, the war prayer from Mark Twain, one of the most brilliant minds to ever pen, and his biting sarcasm, second to none. Again, do yourself a favor, go read that entire thing. And you know what? Read some other Twain because the man was a fucking genius. But now, let's get to some baseball. And we know there's always drama either on the field or off the field when the Demon Bags meet the Barons. So let's just go ahead and start there. George Hall had a solo homer in the top of the fourth, and Hugh Duffy had one in the bottom of the inning. We were tied at three. We'd stay tied at three for a bit, and we'll pick up the story in the bottom of the ninth inning. Edgar Martinez laces a double off Bill McCall, and the D-bags go small ball. Frankie Frisch lays down a sac bunt to move Edgar to third. Tim Raines goes up as a pinch hitter, but much to Finty Bomb's surprise, the Shack Barons have good fundamentals. Tim Raines hits a ground ball, but the runner at third gets looked back before Raines gets retired at first for the second out. That brings up Huey from the boys. He connects on a line drive. A leaping Fred Dunlap can't quite get to it. It drops for a single. That's a walk-off win for the Demon Bags, and they take game one by a score of 4-3. We also had a highly dramatic finish at the Polo Grounds. New York State of Mound leads 4-1 heading into the ninth, but a Carl Yastrzemski leadoff single is followed by a George Wright two-run homer, and suddenly it's a one-run game with nobody out. But Garnett Blair settles in. He gets a pop out from Yogi Berra, a ground out from 42, and then a ground out to second base from the pinch hitting Roger Maris. And New York State of Mound will hold on for the 4-3 win. Was not so dramatic in Chicago. Toad Ramsey struck out 11, and he got more than that in run support. Uh, Amazings and free fallers. They got the drama train rolling again on day two this week. Receipt free fallers hold a 2-1 lead heading into the eighth inning. But a pinch hit RBI double from Lance Berkman and RBI singles from Joe Morgan and Lefty O'Doul. That puts Amazings up 4-2. That lead lasts for all the five batters as RBI singles from the pinch hitting Tommy Agee and Barry Lark. Agee? I don't know. Anyways, him and Barry Larkin, they each get an RBI single. We're tied at four, but that tie doesn't even last for half an inning as Bubbles Hargrave gets a sac fly off Paul Ossenmacher. That not only gives the lead back to Amazings, but it gives sports writers everywhere the chance to include the words bubble and ass in their headline the next day. Eric Gagne works around a leadoff Mookie Betts, best name in baseball, single, but Amazings holds on for that 5-4 win. And folks, I imagine if we had played this FODEUSS season earlier, Scott Boras might have printed the box score from the all-seeing Angels of Hernandez against performance enhancers and taken it to Terrence Scooball's arbitration hearing. That's because Scooball absolutely dominated the lineup full of Hall of Famers that the Angels put out there. He gives up 2 hits in a complete game shutout. And personally, I'm glad that Detroit's not going to pay that guy long term and that before too long he's going to be out of the AL Central. The Enhancers win that game 7-0. Jolly Rogers and Game of Thrones gave us a memorable one in their series finale. Jolly Roger takes a 5-3 lead in the top of the fifth, but Cap Anson ties it with a 2-run homer in the bottom of the inning. And Anson, by the way, fueled by the power of racism, had a hell of a game as he goes 5 for 5 at the plate. Ironic, 5 for 5, and he was in favor of, well, there's a 3/5 joke in there somewhere. I'm not going to make it. I'm just going to set it up for the rest of you. Anyways, we're still tied at 5 in the eighth. Ralph Kiner hits a 3-run homer off Andrew Miller to put Jolly Roger back on top. But right after a double play looked like it might end the rally for the home side, Charlie Smith hits a 2-run homer, and that's going to pull the Kings of the North to within 8-7. Anson gets a leadoff single to start the bottom of the ninth. He goes to second on a ground out from Cal McVeigh. He goes to third on a ground out from Wade Boggs, and he would have scored on a ground out from Mike Napoli if you got 4 outs in an inning. Alas, for Game of Thrones, you only get 3 outs, and that means Jolly Roger holds on for the 8-7 win. The bandwagoners and ball players, they got interleague games off to a banging start. George Wright homered in the second at bat of the game, and this wild affair was underway. The bandwagoners get a pair of 2-run homers. Wright again and Lou Gehrig doing the damage in the sixth. That gives them a 5-2 lead. But a leadoff homer from Ken Williams sparks a 3-run eighth for the ball players. We are tied at 7 going into the ninth inning. Butley hits a solo shot to put the visitors on top, but Buster Posey answers a pinch hit solo shot of his own. In the bottom of that inning, Jackie Robinson's going to score on a wild pitch in the top of the 11th to put the visitors on top 9-8. But Ken Williams got the rally going for the ball players, and Ken Williams has the final statement on this game. His second homer of the game is a walk-off winner worth 2 runs. And in 11 innings, it's the ball players downing the bandwagoners 10-9. Hey, they might say let's play 2, but in this one, let's just go ahead and play extra innings. In the opener between Let's Play 2 and the Surfers, a Nomar Garcia Parra RBI double in the 7th tied us at 4. We'd head to extras tied at 4. Johnny Bench gets a 2-out single in the top of the 9th, but he gets thrown out trying to steal. That's the final out of the inning. Luis Gonzalez gets a leadoff single in the bottom of the 10th. Mark McGuire draws a walk to move Gonzalez into scoring position. And Josh Hamilton delivers the walk-off single to bring him home. That's a 5-4 win for the Surfers. Reseda, they led Atlanta 4-1 heading into the bottom of the 9th, but a Lou Brock single and a double from Rogers Hornsby gave Atlanta runners on second and third with 1 out. A Mike Tiernan sac fly makes it 4-2, and a Chipper Jones RBI double makes it 4-3 with a tying run in scoring position. Joe Torre flies out on a line drive. That ends the game. The free fallers hold on for a 4-3 win. And you know what that means? Vanilla Coke for everyone. Hey, let's talk real quick about how a pair of games on the 20th just feel kind of eerie and how similar they are in their final scores. Let's start in Montreal, where Game of Thrones leads Amazings 5-4 heading into the ninth. Amazings go single, double intentional walk to load the bases, and then they get a sac fly from the pinch hitting Harry Heilman to tie that game at 5. In the 11th, it's a 2-out RBI single from Hall of Famer Rod Carew to convert that into an Amazings 6-5 lead. And that's how we end it. Eric Gagne gets Elmer Flick to fly out, and it's Amazings winning 6-5 in extras. We'll then move over to Hawaii, and it's the visiting all-seeing Angels of Hernandez up 5-3 in the ninth inning. A one-out pinch hit single from Stan the Man Musial and a two-run homer from Nap Lajoie tie the game at 5, and we are once again off to extras. In the bottom of the 10th, leading all-star vote getter Denny Lyons gets a one-out single, steals second, and then scores on a walk-off single from Ed Smartwood as Sithy take the extra inning win 6-5. And we have a lot to cover on the final games this set. A bunch of really great games. In the top of the 7th, Pete Hill had an RBI ground out that tied the game between New York State of Mound and the Birmingham Shack Barons at 4. We don't get another run in that one until the 12th inning. Mike Donlin gets a leadoff triple to open the bottom of the 12th, and George Hall sends the fans home happy with a walk-off single. And honestly, folks, baseball might not get more beautiful than this. Billy Pierce and Mike Scott put up goose eggs, and we had a scoreless game between Atlanta Animes and Reseda Free Fallers in the ninth. We would get our first and only run of the game on a walk-off single with Ichiro scoring Chipper Jones. And let me tell you, folks, that's a beautiful 1-0 scoreline between two teams that are not going to sniff the playoffs. You got to love baseball. You really do. And finally, a Ron Santo 2-out, 2-run single in the ninth saw the Gales go from down 2 and down to their final out to tied at 3. But in the 11th, Duke Snyder hit a walk-off 2-run homer to give the win to Jolly Roger. That gut punch loss, however, not the biggest loss for the Gales on the day. That would be the news that their two-way star and manager, Bullet Rogan, is going to miss the next 5 or 6 weeks with a hamstring injury. Big loss to the Gales. But hey, Minnesota Jedi, you did start this with a random Inty buck heading your way. It's nowhere near enough compensation for the fuck-uppery of the world and losing your pitcher, hitter, manager to injury all in one swoop. But I guess that's how we're rolling right now. Folks, stay safe out there. Do your self-care. I know FODEUSS is part of that for me. I think FODEUSS is part of that for a lot of you. Much love to you all, and we will see you next time for another whip around. FODEUSS.